what's up guys, welcome back to the channel, and on today's video I have a good one for you. Today's video I am bringing you my full review of a shoe that I've put quite a bit of volume in. And I've put quite a bit of volume in it because it turns out that this is a shoe that works for me. Like, it just feels good when I take it out, and I have reached for it time and time again, like more than I usually test a shoe before I bring you my full review. Anyway, I know some of you have probably recognized it by now, but for those of you that haven't, guys, this is my full review of the Brooks Hyperion Max 3. Let's get into it. Before we get started, I just want to say thank you to Brooks. They were good enough to send me this pair of the Hyperion Max 3 for the purpose of review. However, they haven't told me what to say. They don't have any editorial privileges, and all the thoughts and opinions are my own. With that said, you're going to be able to pick up a pair of the Brooks Hyperion Max 3 for $200. And of course, I'll place a link in the show notes below in case you want to pick up a pair for yourself. But $200, yeah, it's a little expensive. Now, I know that this is the way that shoes are going, but it seems like it wasn't that long ago when this would have been a $180 shoe, but that's the way it goes. I'm telling you, we are going to see a lot more shoes in that $200 price range that do something similar that the Hyperion Max 3 does. Well, let's jump right into it. Guys, this is the Hyperion Max 3. Before it was the Hyperion Max 2, and before it was the Hyperion Max. It really doesn't take much brainpower to realize that's how the shoe progression works. But the thing is that the Hyperion Max 3 is very different from the Hyperion Max 2. And the Hyperion Max 2 and 3 are worlds away from what the original, the Hyperion Max was. So one of the big differences this year with the Hyperion Max 3 is that we now have 46 in the heel, 40 in the forefoot for a 6mm drop. Now, of course, the Hyperion Max 3 is really living up to the Max in its name. Last year, the Hyperion Max 2 had 36 in the heel, 30 in the forefoot, also for a 6mm drop. But Brooks has added 10mm of stack height, bringing a shoe that was Max in name, but really not in reality, to a shoe that is both Max in name and in stack height. Now, with that Max stack height and probably a couple other things, I suppose it's not really surprising that the Hyperion Max 3 has put on a little bit of weight from last year, the Hyperion Max 2, and now Brooks claims that a US men's size 9 would tip the scale at 9.9 ounces or 281 grams. However, in my size, a US men's size 13, the Hyperion Max 3 tips the scale at 12.3 ounces or 349 grams. So that's a 34 gram increase in weight in my size over the Hyperion Max 2, which is a lot, but you've now got a true Max stack height shoe. And for me, the Hyperion Max 3 is an all-around better shoe. I've really enjoyed the time I've had testing this. So let's start at the top and work our way down. And what Brooks has done, well, let's just look at the heel collar first. And Brooks has recessed the padding inside the heel collar. So we have this kind of knit lip coming around the top of the heel collar. Then we've got that bolster padding that just kind of comes around the back of the heel. There's enough heel padding in there to actually grip your ankle as you put it in. It's a very nice step-in feel. Brooks has kept the very rigid heel counter right here, which is going to really help with heel slip. Not that I've had any heel slip in the original Hyperion Max, Hyperion Max 2, or this one, but that's probably because of this rigid heel counter. We have added a knit heel pull right here on the back, and we're going to circle back to that. And for the upper, Brooks has changed it. It's a new engineered mesh upper. It's very airy, very breathable. I think it's a little more breathable than the Hyperion Max 2. In fact, as I sit here just with the shoe in my hand and I'm looking at it, I can clearly see inside the shoe from these lighter areas in the mesh upper. Now, while we're here talking about the upper, I'll mention some overlays. This mesh upper that Brooks is using just has a little bit of structure by incorporating different weaves into the upper. So if I hold it up, yeah, it's very easy to see here. We've got these bands coming right across the toe box, and that type of reinforcement is just seen all the way around the shoe, which just gives that upper a little bit of structure and makes it feel very roomy when your foot is in. Oh, as far as fit goes, it does fit true to size. I'm wearing a US men's size 13. I wear a US men's size 13 in all Brooks shoes. But back to the overlays. Right here on the front, we have a little bit, of course, we've got the underlay coming around the entire toe box, but then there is an extra overlay right around the big toe. And I suppose this could be extra protection in case you like kick a rock with your big toe while you're running in the Hyperion Max 3, but I think that's more of a styling thing, and I think it looks pretty good. Overall, I am really enjoying the styling of the Hyperion Max 3. Got some overlays coming along the eyelet chain, as we would expect, and then the tongue. The tongue is actually worth talking about for a second, because even though we have an engineered mesh upper, remember we've got this knit lip coming around the top of the heel collar, and then we've got this knit heel pull right on the back. And the tongue is actually a knit material, and it feels like a kind of booty construction, because the tongue is actually the same piece of knit material that is kind of tied into the top of this heel collar and then comes all the way around the back to the heel pull here. So when you put your foot in, it feels exactly like you're putting it into a one-piece knit upper shoe. But you're not. The top of the tongue is tied to this knit piece on the top, and then there is a gap. Then you have a gusset. So the tongue is still gusseted on both sides, and then the tongue reattaches to the upper at about this second eyelet hole right here. So while it feels like a booty construction shoe when you put your foot in, it's really not. It's like a partial booty. It's not a booty at all, but it's kind of booty-ish on the top. That is the reason we have this knit heel pull on the back. Because this is all one-piece knit right around the top, it is a bit of a challenge to get your foot in. I mean, not a real challenge, just you need to put a bit of effort going in. So this heel pull really helps with putting the shoe on. Now, I'm already concerned at how much of a gush fest this video is going to be, just because I am really a fan of this shoe. It's been fun to run in, it's fun to talk about, it's fun to look at. Like, it's a really solid shoe. But there is something that I am not a fan of. And for that, I need to pull out the Hyperion Max 2 again. And my least favorite thing about the Hyperion Max 3 is the laces. And I realize it's probably going to be difficult to tell from this angle right here, but the laces on the Hyperion Max 3 are just like normal, smooth laces. The laces on the Hyperion Max 2 were the serrated laces, the best laces in the game. The type of laces that when you tie them, you don't have to worry ever about them coming untied. Now, while I have to be honest and tell you that the laces on the Hyperion Max 3 never came untied in all my testing, like, that's not the point. They don't provide the same level of security that a serrated lace does. So Brooks, if anyone at Brooks is watching this, we want the serrated laces back. And by we, I mean me. I just feel like going from the best laces in the game to somewhat normal laces is kind of a step back, especially because this shoe is so advanced compared to the previous version. And if you're wondering what advancements I'm talking about, well, let's come down to the midsole, because Brooks is now using a dual density setup on the Hyperion Max 3. We have their new DNA Gold here primarily up on the forefoot, and then we have DNA Flash V2, which is primarily in the heel and then thins out as we come to the forefoot. Now, I've got no complaints with the DNA Flash V2. I've always thought that was a very good foam. I think it performed very well in the Hyperion Max 2 and the Hyperion, and yeah, just no complaints. But now, I mean, if I had any complaints, they would be fewer, because this DNA Gold is 100% PEBA. It is Brooks's lightest and most responsive foam ever. And of course, we're going to be seeing a lot more of the DNA Gold in Brooks's faster shoes. Now, sandwiched in between the DNA Flash V2 and the DNA Gold is a speed vault plate. And if I hold that up from the bottom, yeah, you can see that. That's basically just a plastic plate. It's going to add a bit of rigidity. In fact, this is a very, very rigid shoe to actually bend. But I don't want you to judge that. If you're not looking for a super stiff shoe, like, this shoe doesn't ride as stiff as it seems with me trying to bend it. In fact, yeah, if I put a bit of an effort, it is bending fairly easily. I'm straining and breaking a sweat on camera, but it really doesn't feel as stiff as I'm making it look by trying to bend it now. It's a very pleasant ride. Okay, so by adding this PEBA DNA Gold to the forefoot of the shoe, Brooks is making it so when you roll and toe off, you're getting a more responsive toe off. By having this DNA Flash V2 still in the back, it's going to add a bit of structure. It's going to give a little bit of support, maybe a little stability. Now, clearly this is not a stability shoe, but just a slightly denser foam is naturally going to provide a little bit of stability. Now, some of you may have noticed and may be wondering about this medial cutout, and you might be wondering, is that going to make me kind of collapse in a little more? I didn't find that to be the case at all. Now, the Hyperion Max 3 is a neutral running shoe, but I did find that this blend of midsole foams works very well. This midsole cutout didn't provide the instability that I initially thought it might, and that could be because we've got a little bit of exposed speed vault plate right here, which means a little wing is going to come out of the plate inside the shoe, and that is also going to contribute to just a little extra stability. Now, if we come back to the bottom of the shoe, you can see we've got a good amount of outsole rubber here. This is Brooks Road Track lightweight outsole rubber. And as far as durability goes, yeah, I've got some wear right here on my lateral heel, which is exactly where I would expect to see it. So based on how many miles I've got in this shoe, I'm actually impressed that there's not a little more. I'm quite surprisingly not seeing anywhere up here on the rubber. There might be just a little bit of wear right here in the middle of the exposed midsole foam, but again, that is to be expected. You see we got this channel here. Like, these channels in the midsole foam on the bottom are going to be cut into the shoe, so when weight is applied, that midsole foam has somewhere to go. Like, it's going to fill in that gap. So when I'm running, it's just natural that some of this midsole foam might touch the ground, but it's really not that bad. There's just a little bit of grazing in some places. So overall, the Brooks Hyperion Max 3 is a real banger for me. You know how there are just some shoes that really work for you? This happens to be one of the shoes that just really works for me. I think the weight is going to put some people off. That 9.9 ounces in a US men's size 9 is it's a little on the heavy side, but I'm telling you the shoe is responsive, it rolls nicely with the glide roll rocker, and I think it's going to work for a lot of runners at a lot of different paces. Now, I have taken this shoe out on workouts and long runs and easy runs, and for me it works well at all of them. The only time that I thought maybe I would want a slightly lighter shoe is when I'm doing like short intervals, so think 400s, but for marathon paced efforts, tempo runs, the shoe just rolls nicely and feels very responsive underfoot. I think this shoe is going to be good for someone that wants a shoe that they can train in and race in, even though the weight is a little heavier than maybe some of the competition. And speaking of the competition, if you are thinking of picking up a pair of the Hyperion Max 3, there are some other shoes that you may be looking at as well. Like first off, the Mizuno Neo Vista 2. The Neo Vista 2 has 45 in the heel, 37 in the forefoot for an 8mm drop. It'll also cost you $200, and in my size tips scale at 311 grams, so it's 38 grams less than my size of the Hyperion Max 3. Now the Neo Vista 2 does have a 100% knit upper, but the only reason I think these shoes might not be absolutely comparable is because the ride is completely different. The ride of the Hyperion Max 3 seems very traditionally firm when compared with the Neo Vista 2. And I can only say traditionally firm because the Neo Vista 2 is surprisingly soft. I mean very soft. I also mean that I don't think anyone has run in a softer shoe than the Neo Vista 2. Next up, I think you also have to consider the New Balance SC Trainer V3. Now, the SC Trainer V3 has 40-34 for a 6mm drop. It'll cost you $180, and in my size tips the scale at 329 grams. So it just weighs 20 grams less than the Hyperion Max 3. For me, at least, this is probably the most direct competition for the Hyperion Max 3, because both of these are shoes that I would use for exactly the same thing. And by that, I mean they're both very versatile. I would use them for easy runs, and I would use them for a tempo or marathon pace effort. And finally, I think you also have to look at the Hoka Mach X2. Now the Hoka Mach X2 has 42 in the heel, 37 in the forefoot for a 5mm drop. It'll cost you $190, and in my size it only tips the scale at 293 grams. So the Hyperion Max 3 weighs 56 grams more than the Mach X2. It's not really a direct competitor because the Hyperion Max 3 is just so much more comfortable. If I had to say which was faster, I would go with the Mach X2. But if you are into running shoes, if you have even looked at the Mach X2 before, you know that they've had some troubles with the heel collar and the heel counter. A lot of people are getting a lot of heel slip in this shoe, so it's not going to work for everyone. There is no way that as many people are going to have heel slip issues in the Hyperion Max 3. It's just an all-around very comfortable shoe. So now it is your turn. I want to hear from you. Have you run in the Hyperion Max or the Hyperion Max 2? Are you thinking of picking up a pair of the Hyperion Max 3? Drop a comment and let me know. But for now, it's Matt B. This has been my review of the Brooks Hyperion Max 3. Be kind, be happy, run well. I'll see you in a couple of days.